The Tiger tank is often said to be nearly impervious to Allied guns. Despite this legendary status and claims made about it, the Tiger had its vulnerabilities that the Allies learned about and used to their advantage. I found a document about the various weaknesses of the Tiger while doing research on the Three Rivers Regiment, also known as the 12th Canadian Armoured Regiment, and their time in Italy during World War II. The document was included in the 1944 War Diary of the regiment. This is an actual document from the time, so these conclusions don't come from after the conflict or from individuals who never faced Tiger tanks. I'll be using this document to show how the Allies were learning about their enemy and their equipment. This is the Allied perspective of the Tiger, and therefore all of the information may not be 100% accurate. Also, I'm not saying such insights were guaranteed to work, but they do show the Tiger had vulnerabilities despite its near mythical status. The document broke down the vulnerabilities of each area of the Tiger. The first was the suspension and tracks. I read directly from the document. The mobility of tanks depends upon the proper functioning of the suspension parts. Sprocket, small driving wheel idler, small wheel in the rear, wheels and tracks. All of these parts are vulnerable to shells of all calibers. A particularly vulnerable part is the sprocket. Fire armor-piercing shells and HE, high explosive, shells at the sprocket, the idlers, and the tracks. This will stop the tank. Fire at the wheels with HE shells. Also, when attacking a tank, use AT, anti-tank grenades, and mines. If movable mines are used, attach 3 or 4 of them to a board and draw the board by means of a cord or cable into the path of an advancing tank. The next section dealt with the Tiger tank's armor plating. Again, quoting from the document. There are 2 armor plates on each side of the tank. The lower plate is partially covered by the wheel. This plate protects the engine and the gasoline tanks, which are located in the rear of the hull, directly beyond and over the 2 rear wheels. Fire at the lower plates with armor-piercing shells from 76, 57, and 45mm guns. If the gasoline tanks are hit, the vehicle will be set on fire. Another method of starting a fire within the tank is to pierce the upper plates on the sides of the tank, thus reaching the ammunition compartment and causing an explosion. The rear armor plate protects the engine as well as giving additional protection to the gasoline tanks. Shells from AT guns penetrating this armor will disable the tank. The turret of the Tiger was its most vulnerable part. The turret has 2 vision ports and 2 openings through which the tank's crew fire their weapons. The commander's small turret has 5 observation slits. There are 2 sighting devices on the roof of the front of the tank, one for the driver, the other for the gunner. Also in the front of the tank, there is a port with a sliding cover. The turret is a particularly important and vulnerable target. Attack it with HE and armor-piercing shells of all calibers. When it is damaged, use 18 grenades and incendiary bottles, Molotov cocktails. There is a 10mm slit all around the base of the turret. AT gun and heavy machine gun fire effectively directed at this slit will prevent the turret from revolving and thus seriously impair the tank's field of fire. Furthermore, hits by HE shell at the base of the turret may wreck the roof of the hull and put the tank out of action. Finally, the document looks at the hull of the Tiger. The tank's air vents and ventilators are under the perforations in the roof of the hull directly behind the turret. Another air vent is in the front part of the roof, between the observation ports used by the radio operator and the driver. Use AT grenades and incendiary bottles against these vents. Explode anti-tank mines under the tank to smash the floor and put the tank out of action. Come to a few conclusions about how the Allies approached anti-tank combat by this document about the vulnerabilities of a Tiger tank. This document shows that the Allies learned to use multiple weapons to attack a Tiger. Everything from armor-piercing shells to Molotov cocktails are suggested. The idea of a 1 versus 1 tank fight was never the Allied plan, so making such one-on-one comparisons, say between the Sherman and the Tiger, are unnecessary. Also, the Tiger's front armor is often used as an example of the supposed superiority of German tanks against those of the Allies. While such armor was thicker on the Tiger, the document shows a frontal attack on a Tiger is not suggested. The vulnerabilities of the sides and the rear of the Tiger receives attention in the document. The turret is also a particular focus. The ability of the Allies to learn and adapt to the better elements of the Tiger again shows how such advantages can be countered by the enemy. Finally, the vulnerability of the Tiger to catching fire is highlighted throughout the document. The focus of piercing the Tiger's armor to reach the more vulnerable ammunition and engines was learned by the Allies through experience and practice. Check out this video of a destroyed Stug 3 at the Canadian War Museum and learn about its journey from being a war trophy to an artillery practice target.